Welcome to Shelf Help. Today we're speaking with Bar Bruhis, founder, CEO of Boostcous, gluten-free, high-protein couscous brand that's making waves and growing super quickly. Before launching Boostcous, Bar spent 10 years or so in the DTC world, running day-to-day at KnoCommerce, helping start sumo.com, just to name a few, and just left KnoCommerce, I think in April 1st, to go all in on Boostcous after I think he hit 5,000 in daily sales, on track for 3 million this year. So super impressive. Get why you left. Yeah, super excited to have in Bar. Maybe just kind of first off, just the listeners that aren't that familiar with Boostcous, love to just get a quick lay of the land, just in terms of kind of the origin story, why behind the brand, kind of core products in the lineup, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, yeah, and thanks for having me on, Adam. I'm stoked.
Yeah.
I think you had a couple of friends on here recently. I think I saw Sam from Good Wipes most recently. He's the man.
Yep.
He's
He's
such a
awesome.
character. But yeah, Boostcous. Yeah, so we launched Boostcous in December of last year. I can give a little bit of backstory like before that. So yeah, I was born in Israel. That's where the name Bar comes from. I lived there until I was 8, then moved to the States, and always grew up eating couscous. It was kind of like a big part of my diet. And always loved like how quick and easy it was to make. Like, you can cook it in 5 minutes as opposed to like rice or pasta that take at least 15 up to like 30 minutes. And it's way more versatile, right? You can eat it hot or cold, whether it's on your salad cold, or like if you want to eat it hot, you can eat it as like a bed to stir fry or curry, kind of as a rice replacement, even as a pasta replacement. Fast forward, I lived kind of all over. I ended up moving to Colorado, just outside of Aspen, a small little mountain town called Carbondale. I love to do a ton of like outdoor activities like mountain biking, backcountry skiing, and would always come home looking for a quick and healthy recovery meal. Kept coming back to couscous, but realized it wasn't actually that good for you. It's normal couscous. People think it's actually it's a grain, but it's actually just semolina flour and water. So it's just pasta, right? And so yeah, looked for alternative. Didn't really see anything. I think there's a ton out there that's working in like the better for you category on the pasta and rice side. Like Bonza's great, so is Goodles. I don't think we're really competitive to either of those companies. On the rice side, there's Right Rice, who went out of business actually for getting sued for having rice in their name, and now we see a lot of Right Rice customers move over to Boostcous. But yeah, we saw that there's like a need here, right? Like went to the grocery store, literally the only company that's making couscous is Near East, bad branding, bad ingredients. So yeah, went to work, tried to formulate a new product. It took about 2 years. And now, yeah, we have Boostcous, which is protein packed couscous, 18 grams of protein, 11 grams of fiber per serving. It's 3 simple ingredients. So it comes from chickpea flour, lentil flour, and pea flour. It's all non-GMO, glyphosate free, and like a naturally occurring protein, which I think protein right now is like a huge trend, but like, do you really need protein sprinkles? Probably not. Do you need like a good, healthy source of protein? I think yes. And so, yeah, that's us.
On the topic of the 3 ingredient formulation, chickpea, lentil, and pea flour, just tell me a bit about the journey like that ultimately got there. I think from what I read, you initially tried just adding protein to kind of traditional couscous recipes, and before you ultimately got to where you are today. I'd love to hear just a good bit about that journey in terms of different variables you play around with, key tweaks you made along the way that ultimately got you to the current form factor.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's like I feel like an entire story in itself. And I feel like yeah, people see products and you don't end up talking about like the origin story. But yeah, so maybe it could have been a little faster. Obviously, I was like running KnoCommerce and doing some other things, but I do think it would have still taken quite a bit of time. We essentially, yeah, like you said, we started by, hey, okay, there is regular couscous is semolina flour and water. Hey, can we actually just infuse that with like a pea protein or a pumpkin seed protein and see how that like works? We tried that a ton of different variations in our kitchen. Bought a dehydrator. Essentially, like there's 2 types of couscous. There's Moroccan couscous and Israeli couscous, Israeli or pearl couscous. We were going for the Moroccan, or you essentially like you sieve this like water and semolina flour formula through a sieve, and you essentially try to like dehydrate that, rehydrate it. We tried like probably 100 different variations in the kitchen. All of them like were not good. Like we would like be stoked, try them, our stomach would hurt. And it's like this is not something I could like actually try to sell. Then did a bunch of research. It turned out that there's like some protein couscous in Europe, which was like a good sign for us because it's like, hey, if this is working in another market, maybe we can do it here. Yeah, found like one protein manufacturer over there. We actually like tested their product, went and visited their facility, and like actually really liked it. And we were like down to use it. And then Trump tariffs hit, and it was like, this is the entire model is like upside down. Also, the supply chain is going to take way longer. Then it was like back to the drawing board, and probably like the lowest point of like, do we have a business here? Like, can we actually make this happen? Then it was kind of like, okay, you know what? Like, we know that there's a product that's working. Let's try to like completely engineer that and vertically integrate it in the United States. So we went out, found the biggest pulse flour manufacturer, which a pulse flour is essentially just a legume flour. So you take chickpeas and grind them up, or lentils or peas. Found the biggest pulse flour manufacturer, called around to like every co-man you could think of, found a gluten-free pasta manufacturer. Took a long time, but like essentially became friends with one of the operating partners there, older gentleman that would just like give calls and kind of like butter up and ask questions, and really cool guy that like wants to see innovation in the industry, and he was willing to take a bet on us. We were able to, there's like even another part of that story where we found the biggest dye manufacturer in the country who had like essentially the way pasta is made is it's extruded through like a dye, and we found a dye manufacturer that had a small pasta line to test their dyes. He'd never used it for R&D. He'd always used it for like dye R&D essentially. And we were able to convince him to do that. So we flew out to him, got our first formulation kind of dialed, and then we were able to negotiate with our manufacturer on an MOQ, and kind of took a leap of faith of like, hey, let's throw some money into this, see if like people even care. If not, we've just lost like a little bit of money. And now I think it's safe to say that people care about it and want to eat couscous.
Traditional couscous is typically, like steamed, or I don't know if absorbed is the right word. And I think yours is, you point out, maybe this is the difference between the Israeli and the Moroccan. I think yours is like more boiled and strained. Were you worried at all about consumer behavior in terms of changing their cooking method? And I guess if so, how did you?
Yeah. So you are right. If I come back on in like 2 or 3 months, we do have another SKU coming out that is the Moroccan couscous. But yeah, there's two types of couscous. The Moroccan couscous is actually much easier and quicker to make.
Yeah.
You can absorb, you can literally just boil water in a kettle and then pour it on top. It absorbs it. You can like cook it anywhere way faster, way easier. Our current version is more of an Israeli type version of couscous, which normal like just semolina flour and water couscous. The Israeli version, you do also cook similar to pasta, where boil water,
Yeah.
cook it, drain it, rinse it. So that's our current version. It was definitely, one of, like I mentioned in the beginning, like there's essentially two value props to normal couscous. It's convenience and versatility. Both versions, I think, are still versatile. The convenience factor was definitely a concern. But I think it's one of those things that was like move fast and fail. And, I think it's enough of a pain point to where, okay, like let's launch with one SKU. This is the SKU that we know we can produce. If we can get to enough product market fit and enough signal, then we can actually launch a second SKU and then eventually even more SKUs after that. But yeah, definitely a concern. It hasn't seemed to come up. Like if you look at our reviews, I'm very customer obsessed. I like talk to our customers, text our customers. Certainly like, I'd say like 1 in 1,000, like we'll have an issue, but I think that's like normal for like any CPG brand.
In terms of that, co-packer overseas, tariffs kind of totally threw things off. You had to go back to the drawing board. Other first-time founders that are, whether it's just the nature of their formulation or they decide to do it intentionally, are a big part of their supply chain is international. Anything that comes to mind, or recommendations you might have that can help stress test and de-risk it, whether it's dual sourcing, ingredient flexibility.
I mean, I think that like it was a blessing in disguise that we had to rebuild our entire supply chain. I think not having to deal with overseas shipping and duties, all the things, tariffs, like it took us a lot longer to get to market, but we are way more flexible now. So If you can, I think manufacturing like onshore is definitely better. Having said that, our some of our future SKUs will not be like fully US, and so we have learnings to do there too. I'm not sure that I'm like, we're just getting our chops there. So I would say if you can try to do it in the US, but I'm certainly not an expert in that regard, and we're very much learning on the fly.
You and your other partner, I think you guys each put in a good chunk of cash for that first order. Just for some really early stage founders that are at a very similar place, it's time to pull the trigger if they're going to do this.
We put in like I guess a good chunk of cash is relative. Like compared to other CPG brands, like I know plenty of CPG brands that require like at least $100,000 to get off
Yeah,
the
for
ground.
sure.
Uh,
Yeah,
I can share that we were like well under 50. Like I don't know that I'm comfortable sharing the exact number, but it's
totally
around
fair.
that. And yeah, I think for us it was from the get-go, it was the approach was always, hey, listen, this is a startup. Both of us actually had like other jobs, and it was essentially like, hey, can we like do something that's different, and can this thing get legs? And from the get-go, it was always, let's put in X amount of money and pretend that that money doesn't exist. It's like putting that money would have been either I put it in like a Bitcoin style investment where it's like super high risk, or I invest in myself and be willing to have it go down to zero. So like as soon as I transferred that to the business account, I just like in my head wrote it off as like that's
Right.
going to zero.
Yep.
And then from there, like all the decisions get easier, right? It's like, okay, we have X amount of money in the bank. We need to prove out this business with that amount of money. And ideally we don't put any more money. And so that's the way we thought about it. And yeah, obviously nerve-wracking to like go do that first run. But we negotiated net 30 terms. So it was always like, okay, if we can have this product land at our warehouse, we could start selling it even before like it lands in the warehouse, and we can start getting cash to feel better about it, or to feel better about the debt that we carried. But yeah, I think my mindset from the beginning was always like, hey, we're burning this money's going to be on fire. It's like either going to zero or going to more than zero.
When you decided to go full time on this and leave no commerce, if was there one specific moment you're like, all right, this is the data I need to see. I'm burning the boats.
Yeah, it was pretty early on. So, like I said, we launched in December, and I had the conversation with Jeremiah at No in like mid January to essentially say like, hey, I think I have too much on my plate, and that was essentially the conversation I had with myself. Is I was stretched too thin, so I had No, which we had 6,500 merchants on there, and like a growing business software. I do D2Ski, which is an event in Aspen every year where we fly out 30 of the biggest D2C brands. This year we had like Sam, like I said, Groons, like David Protein, like some of the biggest and fastest growing companies. That took a lot of planning and coordinating and all of that. And then I also had Boostcous, and it was just like, this is too much. I need to take things off my plate. So I hired someone to help for D2Ski. No was the kind of like the first thing where I was like, this needs to come off the plate, because the only reason Boostcous is going to fail is if I don't put in the right attention. Like right away, we saw like we were getting first order profitability, low CPAs, really good reviews. Customers were using it. They were buying it again. And so right away it was like there's enough strong signal. I wouldn't say there's like one specific number I was looking at, but across the board, I could just like gut feel that there was enough signal that there's going to be a business here. And yeah, I'm an all in or nothing type person. So I knew that I couldn't be like, 1 foot in, 1 foot out of like two different businesses. So decided I just had to step away from now.
What have you learned since launch about who the core customer is of Boostcous, and anything that's been surprising in terms of who you found is actually the core buyer at all?
Yeah. Yeah. I think so it's such an interesting like experiment to think through who your customer is and build like a customer demographic before you launch, and then like recalibrate it. And I think my time at No helped me a ton with that, right? Like post purchase surveys, you learn so much about your customer, who they are, why they're buying, where they're from, like demographic, all sorts of things, right? And so going into it, I think I'd like to think that I had like no ego attached to the persona and I wanted to just let the customers tell us who they were. But yeah, like certainly I thought, okay, like it's probably going to be like that the female that like lives in New York, LA, Austin that does Pilates and is looking for a healthy recovery meal after their workout, or like that gym bro in those same geos. Yeah, we've been really surprised to see who it actually is. So, we've I'd say we have like probably five different customers. Number one would probably be like the mom or like the caregiver with kids. Really quick and easy for them to make for themselves. They're also a lot of moms in postpartum need high protein. So that's been really interesting to see. But then also feeding their kids, it's high in iron and there's no choking hazard. I don't have kids, so I like didn't think through that, but it's a huge market, right? And huge share of wallet. So that's one. The kosher community was another really surprising one. We are fully kosher certified, and I think they were already eating couscous in their diet, and then wanted a healthier version of that. That community also has a lot of word of mouth, and so been really interesting there. The gluten-free community, that's another one where, at first I didn't think was going to be that big, but it's actually been huge. And we have all sorts of stories of moms reaching out and saying like, hey, my son or daughter was diagnosed celiac at birth, had always wanted to try couscous. This is the first couscous they've ever had. Really like moving stories like that. So yeah, those are probably like the three core ones, and then the two other ones are those like ancillary ones that I'd mentioned, like that 20s 30 something that's like looking for added protein. And I think the most interesting one that's like come up recently is like the GLP-1 movement. They're looking for really high fiber, high protein foods. 1 in 8 American is on GLP-1s now, so that's been an interesting one to explore. They're all that when you're on a GLP-1, you're pretty constipated, and so like having a high fiber that's soluble fiber really helps you out.
This question might end up being a plug for KnoCommerce, but for some of those first time founders that are trying to figure out really who their actual core customer is or is going to be as fast as possible post launch, like what's the best way you think they can do that?
Yeah, I think this advice probably is across the board. You have to be customer obsessed, and that will answer so many of your questions. So, yeah, certainly like no or any other post purchase survey is super helpful. When we started, no is always surprising. It's like 40% of people will fill out that survey. I personally am in that 60%, so it's like even more surprising to me. But getting like 2 out of 5 of your customers to like answer a survey, and designing that survey to really help you, right? So like, what are the main value props of your product? List them out and have people like check off the ones that like resonated with them for the purchase, so that you can like double triple down on that, right? Like most founders are like too obsessed with their product and they give too many value props. It's like, this is simplify, it's food. Like
Yeah.
give two value props.
Yeah.
I think also understanding why people didn't buy, or why they didn't almost buy. That's like really, really helpful for understanding um, like customer hesitations. But that's just one data source. Like there's so many others, right? Like I look through our orders. If anyone's like we like had someone order like $200 worth of Boostcous today. I'm like texting that person and I'm like getting on a call with them and like understanding their story. There's like, I do think surveys are so, so important, but like at the end of the day, there's nothing that like a human conversation, especially a phone call, ideally like a face-to-face conversation, will give you so much more context, and just continue to absorb that. Our first 500 orders we did, like we just posted, we like got a front page article in the Aspen Times and like some other newspapers here, and essentially said, hey, if you want free shipping, come buy from Bar's garage, and they would like just literally come to our garage. And like that demographic skews a lot older. It's a newspaper reading article or newspaper reading audience. So, I took that with a grain of salt, but still very much asked them like, what matters to you? Looking at all of your Facebook comments, all of your Instagram comments, seeing like what are the patterns there. And then, yeah, certainly looking at your reviews. And I think we crossed 200 reviews today. We have like 195 star reviews, but there's 10 that are not 5 star. And I'm like, very much obsessed with that and like emailing, texting those people, understanding like, hey, what do you not like about our product? What is your demographic and who are you and why did you buy, so that I can understand like how I can attract more of the right person.
On that front, from a brand identity standpoint, as you're building out the brand from a look and feel, positioning, voice standpoint, what were the key variables that were top of mind for you when you were building all that out?
Yeah, so, we wanted the product to be we wanted it to attract and resonate with a wide variety of consumers, right? You had asked for the like customer profile, and I think I named like 5 or 6, right? So it's like I actually have a box right here, but like, the box, it looks like it might be a little glary, but like the box is like meant to be like fun and light, right? And something different than like what's out there. Like I mentioned, like right now it's just Near East that's like producing couscous. But yeah, we kind of borrowed like a lot of the colors are from like Middle Eastern, like whether it's like the blue is like kind of like coming from like the Israeli flag or like even like Greece where like a lot of couscous comes from. We knew we wanted to be like fun and light, so we created these characters and we have a bunch of these characters like all through our website.
Yeah.
Even like, this is like all the different characters like dancing on like our hat. So yeah, we knew we wanted to be fun and light. We knew we wanted to kind of grab some inspiration from like where couscous comes from, which is like, Africa, Greece, the Middle East. And we let our designer kind of take their stab at it. And that's where we ended up. A lot of iterations between like first and what you see on the box today. But that's kind of the inspiration.
Boostcous is, I assume, a huge people why people discover the brand and try it for the first time. It just seems to be pretty clear what the product is and what it does. But I think the naming process is it can be a lot more complicated and one of the harder things that people do when they're building a brand. You guys obviously hit it out of the park. What did that naming process look like for you, and any other alternatives that you guys were close to landing on before you decided Boostcous is the one to go with?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't take full credit for the name. My friend Steven came up with the name. But yeah, like you said, it's definitely an iterative process, making sure that you can trademark that name, making sure that you can get the domain. So super, super iterative. But my friend Steven came up with the name. We saw that there's like an opportunity for like the domain for the trademark. And we just kind of kept building that out.
Your launch went pretty viral. I think you did 10K plus in like the first 2 weeks in market, which is been pretty awesome. And then sales kind of slowly dropped after that, which is not uncommon at all after kind of a boost at the beginning. Was there a moment where you realized, all right, this organic momentum is not going to carry us where we need to, and we need to start figuring out how to crack paid?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I kinda knew that that was gonna be the case from the beginning.
Yeah.
Our first sales came from, like, I have a LinkedIn and Twitter following that I've just been building for 10 years, like, and it mostly came from that. We had a couple of viral posts that like there's kind of like this trend of like I hinted at it in the beginning, but there's like protein is just such a trend right now that like people are almost like tired of new protein sources, right? Like it's like I think the joke is like, come on, really? Like what like I don't know, I've seen like literally like sprinkles with protein, like I don't know, brownies with protein, like all these like sources. So then yeah, someone Snaxshot, which is Andrea, she's great, she like posted about like a picture of us and like protein couscous like entered the chat or something, and it went viral, got like 100,000 views on Twitter. And then from there like a New York Times writer like saw it and they also like posted about it, and that got like another 250 or 500,000 impressions. And then from there it was just like kind of this like downstream effect of like a bunch of different creators made videos for it, like this news outlet well worthy. So we just got like a ton of like organic PR, honestly, that we couldn't have engineered. Obviously, like net new product, so there was some engineering there, but yeah, we got lucky there. And From the beginning, it was always like, okay, hey, listen, like we'll always post organic content, and we always like want to be like founder led. We want people to resonate with the story and feel like they know the brand and feel like they are early supporters of the brand, and like moving with us in the movement. But yeah, we knew that like in order to build a scalable, repeatable business, we needed to crack paid ads. I'd actually never logged into Meta or like Facebook Ads Manager before starting
Oh, wow.
Boostcous, surprisingly enough, right? Like I've been on the SaaS side of D2C, but I'd never logged in, and just kind of dove into the deep end, watched like so much YouTube. Obviously, I'd already been following the right accounts on like Twitter and LinkedIn, and had the right network. Connor Rolling has helped a bit. Some of the other like operators that are like operating really big businesses, and know the ins and outs. So I was able to like kind of ask questions along the way. But yeah, it was mostly just like self taught, like bang my head at the wall, like trying to figure it out. And then, yeah, now like, it's still just me and my co-founder. We are scaling Meta like pretty rapidly. We've got a lot of whitelisting ads, a lot of creators that we work with. Our top performing ad is an ad that I probably spent like 70 hours creating. It's our founder ad, where I just studied like so many ads, thought about our story, filmed it, edited it in CapCut, like tested different hooks. But that's like kind of what helped us get to this like very low CPA that gets us first order profitability. And yeah, now we're continuing to scale that. We're all obviously on Google as well. We're testing Axon. We're testing. We want to launch on TikTok Shop and Amazon. But right now, just doing it all ourselves, like trying to keep that bootstrap mentality of staying lean. Even if we do raise money, it's gonna be like, hey, like how do we stay as lean as possible and do this as profitably as possible?
In terms of the retail side of things, tell me about your Expo West strategy back in March.
Yeah. Well, so Expo is insane. It's
Yes.
like the Super Bowl, and there's just like so much just shit going on and so many people. It's exhausting. Again, like going back to the like, hey, we're bootstrapped. We don't want to put more money into this. We want to, I think eventually we will raise money, but we want to get to as far as we can without it. Expo to me is a massive opportunity to unlock retail, and you kind of have all of these buyers in one room. We don't have like connections to those buyers. Like you go talk to like a Peter Rahal from like David Protein, like that dude doesn't need to go to Natural Expo
Right.
because he
Right.
can just call the Costco buyer and go fly out and see them, right? But like we
Yep.
don't have that. And so
Yeah.
yeah, and then from there it was like, okay, how do we get into the room? It's really expensive. So yeah, I just like finagled my way in for free to Expo. I don't know that I should share like everything that I
That's
did
fine. You
there,
don't have to
but
say details.
yeah, we went to Expo for free. We were able to meet a couple buyers there.
Nice.
Yeah, we met the Gelson's buyer actually that hopefully will launch there in the next month or two. And yeah, we like for the first year it's like, hey, we're just gonna go and like literally absorb and meet as many people as possible. I think my favorite part about the CPG community is, especially coming from the SaaS or software side, like everyone in software can be a frenemy. They can just pivot, and especially now with AI, like
Interesting.
they
Me
can
too. I
pivot
never thought
even
about that. Yeah.
faster into your lane.
Yeah.
Where like CPG, like everyone is kind of like a real friend, right? Like most companies that we saw at Expo, it's like, oh, we could like partner with you guys, do a collab. Like, oh, you have a sauce company. Oh, you have a this company. So we made a ton of friends, which was really cool. And that was like the main takeaway there.
Tell me about those first conversations with some of those first few retailers you got into, which I think were near Carbondale in terms of what the pitch looked like, what the buyers cared about, what you felt like really resonated.
We're still obviously learning on the retail side. It's funny, like that, like looking back on it, it's like when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what a distributor was. I didn't know what UNFI or KHE was. I didn't know how like margins work. I was just like, okay, well, there's these grocery stores that are here. Let's just like go knock on doors. I would
Yeah.
literally just take a box in. I still have it, but like I would just take a box in with like my picture on the front of the Aspen Times newspaper. I was like, "Hey, look, this is me. This is my product. Do you guys want to sell it?" Like in so many words. And um, Yeah, we got super lucky, like we live in a small community, everyone wants to help each other. And they were like, yeah, we'll buy 2, 3 cases, see how it goes. Um, and I still have it set up this way where they like text me when they need new cases, like
It's
we need to
awesome.
get off of that 'cause as we scale. But like, yeah, it's insane velocity. Like they are like we were sold out and they would like text me like, yo, or like I would even go into their store and they're like, we had like this lady Kathleen, she came in and she's like, I cannot believe you guys don't have Boostcous, like blah blah blah. Like, so yeah, good signal. But yeah, but to answer your question, it was like me walking in with a newspaper in our box and just saying, hey, do you guys want to try it? And I would leave a box, let them try it and come back the next day, kind of thing.
Anything that you've uncovered speaking with the retailers you're in so far that's in terms of what has actually had the biggest impact from a velocity standpoint thus far?
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the region. We're in some grocers in New York, some in Colorado, and we certainly like need to continue to improve our packaging. Yeah, adding I can tell you that like certainly online, like adding the core, like the kosher logo on the packaging helped a ton. But yeah, I think and now we're GFCO certified, so we need to add that to our next packaging for the gluten-free community.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think we a couple of things we learned. One, we don't sit next to pasta. We sit next to rice, farro, and quinoa, which that aisle is far less competitive than the pasta aisle. And like I'd like to say we like engineered that, but we just kind of got lucky and backed into that, which is great. So that's the first part is are sitting in this aisle that has way less competition, like as opposed to like the pasta aisle that has all these awesome brands that are these different colors, but you still have to make a decision. You go to the rice farro and quinoa aisle, like it's all like white packaging that is pretty old school. So yeah, we learned that we learned that it was like harder to read our front of the box call outs. We also learned that our front of the box call outs were for the entire box. We used to say 46 grams of protein and can't remember how much fiber. And now it's a per serving, which is what the customer wanted to see.
Yeah.
So we learned that and adjusted it. But yeah, a lot of those learnings, I'd say like 90% of those learnings actually came from online and translated into retail versus like talking to the retail buyer. Like, you don't own that customer. You can't talk to that customer. Like online, like people that are like pissed off that you have 46 grams of protein on the front of your box will like blow up your ads and just comment until like they can't comment anymore, which is actually good for the meta algorithm because they're actually feeding the impression count. But yeah, we learn from them.
You mentioned you and your co-founder trying to stay as lean as possible for as long as possible. How are you guys thinking about how you're going to split your time focus between D2C and retail as retail really continues to start to take off?
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I think it comes back to I genuinely believe right now is the best time to be building in CPG. One, because of the tailwind of CPG, right? Especially like if you can get on certain trends that are like built to last, like fiber and protein. I think it's a really good time. The other piece of that equation is like AI is obviously in such a good place right now to be able to automate and essentially make like one person, three people. And so yeah, to back to your question, we're essentially building the company AI first. So anything that we can do to automate, whether it's like email design, whether it's responding back to customers on customer support, whether it's like high touch items, like I'll give you an example. If someone cancels their subscription with us, they get a personalized email from me in my email that is personalized via AI and automatically pulls from our recharge API, builds it on a skill that I built based on the first 10 emails that I sent, and then it automatically sends it to that person. We may or may not win that person back into a subscriber, but like, 10 out of 10 times that person is now more affiliated with Boostcous and happier customer. So all of these things are being built to like essentially try to automate as much as we can on the D2C side. Certainly we'll still need humans and um like one of the first hires that we'll likely make is going to be like a chief of staff or like a growth role to be able to take a lot of what I've got on my plate off of my
Hmm.
plate so that I can start to focus on retail and have those retail conversations. And then eventually, like certainly we need to hire humans, right? Like the retail side is still very archaic. It's like 1980s. Like you need to send a pitch deck, you need to fly out, you need to shake hands and make best friends with that buyer. And so, yeah, like we'll need humans that have done that, that can bring connections to the table. And we certainly want to do that. Right now, I think we have so much more juice to squeeze out of D2C and so much more to learn from our customer and be able to build like a better story. Like the story I want to tell a retailer when I walk in is, hey, we not only know that we should be in here based on the data from our customers, we've 1,000 customers, 800 of them are telling us to be in your store. We also know that we can drive you more foot traffic because we have now a brand following and people that are going to come into your store to go buy Boostcous, but then put other things in their cart. And so we're trying to build that story alongside, starting to like get some retail traction so that we can learn from the retailers along the way. So yeah, ideally we'll hire someone so I can focus more of my time there.
How are you thinking about your product roadmap, prioritization, more flavors versus other grains, et cetera? Whatever you're obviously comfortable sharing at this point.
Yeah, I think the couscous market is a big market. It's like a $30 billion market. I think there's plenty of room for us to grow into the couscous market. I think the way that I think about it is, probably 80% of Americans know what couscous is. They've either like of that, probably 50% of the 80% has actually made couscous themselves. The other 30% probably had it at a restaurant or has seen it, whatever. 100% of Americans know what protein is. And so we're looking for that Venn diagram, which is a very, very large Venn diagram. So right now we're strictly focused on couscous. There's like so much for us to do there. And there's a lot of white space. We like, there's two versions of couscous, there's Israeli and there's Moroccan. We think that we can create both. Right now we have an Israeli version. We think that we can create the best, better for you Moroccan as well. So we'll continue to dive in there. And then from there, yeah, certainly there's so many opportunities when it comes to flavoring, right? Like whether it's, partnering with other companies like, like the Olipop times Groons or even Olipop times like Good Wipes. Like there's so many like opportunities there for partnership, but also like our own flavors that we create. And then, yeah, then, being able to create variety packs and things like that. So, yeah, short term, certainly like very much focused on couscous. Long term, we do think we can boost other grains as well, but that's not something that we're thinking about like day to day.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. This has been great. Appreciate you coming on. What's the best place for people to follow along with you? And then what's the best place for people to follow along with Boost Goose as well?
Yeah, and thanks for having me on. That was fun. Yeah, best place to follow me is Bar Bruhis on LinkedIn, Twitter. Mm, I have a website, barbruhis.com too. I try to keep updated, but it's not that updated right now. Yeah, probably the only bar that you'll find, certainly the only Bar Bruhis that you'll find. So I'm sure if you type in
Easy to
Bar
find.
B on anything, you'll see me. Thanks to my parents for giving me that SEO boost. And then Boostcous, yeah, everything is at Boostcous. So boostcous.com, at Boostcous, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. So yeah, you can find us there.
Perfect. Awesome, Bob. Appreciate the time. I think that's the pod.